What is up guys, welcome back to another video. Today we are looking at top 10 creepiest small towns in America. And let's get straight on with it, let's go.
PSA, stay away from these small towns at all costs.
We've all been to that one rundown town where the vibe just seemed off. The people are strange and there's this weird feeling in the air. There are a lot of creepy towns in America, especially once you get into the more rural areas, but most don't compare to these.
Well, America is a big place, so I would say there's, oh, sorry about that. I would say America has like so many small towns that like you don't even know exist, you know? So for sure there'll be some haunted places and things like that. That's what I'm guessing.
You really should avoid going to any of these places unless you absolutely have to. Some have a dark history and are reportedly haunted by ghosts if you believe in that stuff. And if you don't, well, the paranormal honestly would seem like pleasant company compared to the residents of some of these towns. From abandoned buildings to cults and drugs to gruesome murders, darkness and oddities loom throughout their streets. The following places really should be avoided at all costs. But if you're a crazy adventurer wanting to ignore my warnings, or just interested in seeing how strange America can be, then be sure to listen to my top 10 creepiest towns in the United States.
Okay, so I know most of you guys are actually from America, so if you know any of these places that we're going to see now, or even heard about them, let me know in the comments below what you know, guys. Number 10.
Whittier, Alaska. How would you feel if your entire city lived, worked, and spent their free time in the same building? What if they never left? Well, that's life for the 208 residents living in the small port town of Whittier, Alaska. The only way you can escape, or enter, if you dare, is by boat or through a single, highly regulated one-lane tunnel. It closes often and unexpectedly. When it is open, you're only allowed to enter every half hour. Fortunately, you don't need to go through the inconvenience of leaving your building since this single 14-story structure, Begitch Towers, has everything a town could need, from a grocery store to a post office to apartments you can call home, all in the same building. You really...
Wow, that's actually quite clever, you know? But at the same time, it's a bit weird, you know? Like, the whole town living in the same apartment. I wouldn't like that.
You do never need to leave, and most people don't during the winter. Just imagine the isolation. What's even more unsettling is that although the people have lived this way for generations, this is actually a new building. But the old building they all used to live in is still there too, on a hill, dilapidated, crumbling, and fenced off, never to be entered. Outside of Begitch Towers, the town just seems barren, abandoned, and creepy. While cruise ships do...
That does look like a haunted place.
Come through here in the summer, very few visitors make the trek during the winter, when the town stays dark for over 18 hours a day, making Whittier feel incredibly lonely and isolated.
Like, it is extremely lonely living in a town. I don't know, it's like, what do you do for fun around there, man? What do you do for fun? I don't get it.
Number 9. Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Upon arrival, it isn't hard to see why the town's most infamous citizen, the creepy humanoid moth-like figure known as Mothman, called Point Pleasant home. No one knows who or what he was, but his supposed flights over the streets during the 1960s are only a recent occurrence in a town deeply rooted in darkness. It all began on the 10th of October, 1774. The Shawnee tribe bravely fought the new American settlers for the land that they both called home. The Americans barely managed to overcome the tactics of the Shawnee chief Cornstalk. Eventually, Cornstalk, his son, and close friends came to negotiate with the Americans in an effort to avoid future battles, but the Americans captured and executed them all. Just before he died, Cornstalk called upon the Great Spirit to curse the land for 200 years as vengeance for the injustice done to him and his people. Whether you believe in curses or not, 2 devastating floods ruined the town. followed by a destructive fire. Later, an airplane carrying the Marshall University football team and their coach tragically crashed here as well, killing all 75 people on board. In 1967, the Silver Bridge, which connected the town to Ohio, collapsed, killing 46. Then, in 1978, a freight train derailed and spilled toxic chemicals into the city's water supply. Not to mention the apparent men in black and UFO activity in the area. The town is even cursed by a name it could never live up to. If you visit Point Pleasant today, you'll definitely feel something strange in the air. And it's not just Mothman. The real mystery is, why do people keep living here? Number 8. Villisca, Iowa. On the surface, Villisca looks like your normal, quiet, small Midwest town.
Like from here, it looks like a nice, chill sort of town, everyone friendly. That's what I'm getting from just looking at this image now.
But that only makes everything that I'm about to tell you even creepier. Over 100 years ago, the Villisca Axe murders of 1912 traumatized the town, which hasn't recovered since. The murders took place between the evening of June 10th and early morning June 11th, 1912, when 8 people were discovered dead at Josiah and Sarah Moore's house. The 6 members of the Moore family and their 2 house guests were found bludgeoned. Even the 4 children had severe head wounds from an axe. Although a lengthy investigation yielded several suspects, one of whom was tried twice, the crime remains unsolved. An air of uneasiness envelops the town today, perhaps because its residents never quite felt safe, knowing a ruthless murderer freely roamed their streets. Today, the town is run down, and although tourists can spend the night in the Moore house, I don't know why anyone would want to. One traveler who passed through here recounts, "It did feel eerie and I felt unwelcome. Even the flies were more annoying there." Perhaps that's why no civilization settled nearby. Even though there are 1,200 people currently living in the town, the
Wow, 1,200 people. That is a lot.
nearest restaurant or grocery store other than their gas station is 15 miles away. Number 7. Centralia, Pennsylvania. Centralia has been on fire for decades. Yes, you heard me right. On fire. The blaze began in 1962 with a trash fire in a strip mine beneath the town. That unassuming little flame ignited an eternal hellish blaze that burns underground to this day, and each year, it grows by 75 feet in every direction. The town has been barricaded from the outside to prevent people from driving onto the collapsing roads, which are a danger even on foot. Sinkholes constantly and randomly appear,
What? That is creepy. Like, seriously.
eager to swallow unsuspecting victims. And where there aren't sinkholes, there are random spurts of smoke that can kill you upon inhaling the fumes. This one might sound like something out of a video game or horror movie, and well, that
I was just about to say, like, this place actually reminds me of a place where they would actually film a horror movie or something like that, you know?
That's because it is. The Silent Hill franchise is based on this town, and it's a tragic story. The population of once 3,000 residents has now decreased to just 10 according to the last US Census. But nobody knows if those 10 people still live in the death trap today. Of the 400 to 500 buildings that once stood in this flourishing town, only 5 remain. And I honestly don't know why anyone would want to still live here. I mean, just look at the place. Number 6. Broadhead, Wisconsin. Broadhead is a town haunted by many dark and twisted tales. The first known haunting began after 2 men brutally murdered a helpless woman whose ghost supposedly now roams the bridge that she died on. And that isn't the only tragedy that darkens the city. A fire claimed the life of a little girl who apparently now haunts the building she burned to death in. As if that isn't bad enough, Broadhead residents have recounted numerous haunting encounters with various ghosts all over the town. Perhaps because of another tragedy that happened at what is now called Hell's Playground, where children were murdered by a mentally ill man. Many reports of eeriness and even the faint sound of children chanting have been made. And even if you don't believe in ghosts, the town here still feels creepy, perhaps in part due to the old decaying architecture mixed with extremely religious people and lots of meth addiction.
Like, to be honest, I would like to go visit this place just to see if the feeling is actually, as they say, you know, like haunted and all that stuff. I've never experienced something like that, so I don't know. I just like adventuring, doing new things, you know, so maybe in the future.
Broadhead just isn't a pleasant place to go through. Number 5, Cairo, Illinois. This once booming metropolis sits conveniently at the confluence of the Mississippi and Ohio rivers. The amazing location brought it great economic success in the early 20th century, but eventually also became its demise. The Great Mississippi Flood of 1927 amassed tragedy here, and soon thereafter, many who once called it home eagerly left once rivers were no longer necessary for trade. It quickly became a ghost town. The population has been reduced to a mere 3,000 residents. Those who remain live amongst the corroding ruins of what was once a great city, now overgrown with weeds. What's even worse is that it's a town ruined by its own hate and spite. Many white-owned businesses chose to go out of business instead of integrating during the civil rights movement. And even as recently as 1967, lynchings were held here. It's no wonder so many were quick to abandon the town. Crime runs rampant here, and just walking through the streets honestly feels like something out of The Walking Dead.
Oh.
Number 4. Antelope, Oregon.
Walking Dead. That is the best series, bro. Absolutely loved that.
Oregon. Drive about 20 minutes outside of any city, and you're guaranteed to find some total weirdness. I mean, this thing, the Temple of Oculus Anubis, is just outside of Portland. But out of all Oregon's cultish, creepy, and strange towns, Antelope is by far the creepiest. I mean, the people here live with actual deer on their porches. That's a major weird red flag. But maybe they just didn't get the memo, since they don't have any modern technology or much communication with the outside world at all. Now, you're probably wondering the same thing I was. Why do these people live with deer? Well, in 1981, a mystic guru guy from India known as Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh bought 65,000 acres of land just 18 miles outside Antelope. And let me tell you, Oregon had no idea what was coming. It wasn't long before thousands of his followers had infiltrated the town of Antelope with their cultish ideals, and eventually even voted to rename the town after Rajneesh. But taking over Antelope wasn't enough. Members of the cult began poisoning everything from restaurant salad bars to water supplies of nearby towns, and even Portland and Salem. They also tried to murder several public officials. A global manhunt eventually collapsed the cultic commune, but needless to say, the town of Antelope never quite recovered. It's a ghost town, full of decaying, empty storefronts. Only 49 people remain here as of the last US Census, many resiliently still following their cultic ways, living with their deer.
That is just weird. I don't know. Never heard people living with deers. Like, right? That's something new to me.
Number 3. Colorado City, Arizona. The misleading name isn't half as misleading as the beliefs of the fundamentalist Mormon cult gone rogue that lives here. It all started when Warren Jeffs, a leader of the church, convinced followers in this desert town that technology was satanic and everyone outside of their cult was possessed by Satan. So members of this cult needed to keep their bloodlines pure and only marry within the commune. Eventually, Jeffs was arrested for child molestation, but his ideals remain in the town. Though the rest of the world has moved on, Colorado City is stuck in the 1800s. From their traditional clothing to lack of technology and extreme hostility toward visitors and the entire outside world. Although the town is full of houses, they're mostly abandoned by the members of the cult who instead opt to live secretly in large compounds. The only obvious thing about their way of life is that young girls are forced into polyamorous relationships with much older men. But any other practices remain a mystery, and members of the cult make every effort to keep it that way.
Wow.
Number 2.
All right, that's interesting there.
Auburn, West Virginia. This is your typical spooky Appalachian small town, of which there are a lot, but Auburn, West Virginia just might be the creepiest. Located right off of State Route 74, the town of 90 residents consists of a single street lined with shack-like houses, and the road comes to an abrupt end once it reaches the woods. There's only one way in or out of the town. Why or how it got there is a mystery, and the people that live here are even more mysterious. A man on a motorcycle trip through Appalachia accounts how he stumbled across the town, which was completely silent and seemingly empty, not a soul in sight. After coming to the dead end at the edge of town, he was forced to turn around, and as he drove back through the town, dozens of people had suddenly materialized on the porches of their shack-like houses. They stood motionless, silently watching him. He got out of there fast. Number 1. Skidmore, Missouri. At first glance, you may see Skidmore as just another decaying small town that more and more people are leaving every year. But this town is a lot more depressing than that, especially when you know where it all started. Over 50 years ago, the notorious bully Ken McElroy blackmailed his way into a reign of terror over the town. He literally raped and pillaged the people there, forcing women as young as 12 into polygamous marriage. No one knew how to stand up to him, not even the police, until one day someone just shot him in front of the entire town. There was an intense legal investigation, but no one in the town would say a word. The authorities eventually gave up. Skidmore was finally peaceful. For a while, but in the year 2000, Wendy Gildenwater was stomped to death by her boyfriend. Some even say she was dragged on the streets hanging from the side of his car until she died. But that
That's just... Oh no, man.
Wasn't the last of the town's nightmarish troubles. On December 16th, 2004, a pregnant 23-year-old, Bobby Jo Stinnett, was discovered by her mother, who told 911 operators that she looked like her stomach exploded. Upon autopsy, they found that the infant was cut out of her womb by another lady who decided she wanted a baby. For a town of just 250 residents, there have been an abnormally large amount of gruesome murders and disappearances. That's why Skidmore truly is the creepiest town in America. But seriously,
Skidmore. Wow, that is a creepy name as well. Let me know, guys, if you've actually know some of these, heard about them, let me know in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts about this video, guys, and tell me what other video suggestions you have. Just comment them down below and I'll check them out, guys. Thank you for watching. Don't forget, smash that like button, subscribe to your boy Dusank, and we'll see you on the next video. Peace out.